They orbit silently overhead, those silver dots glinting in the night sky. We barely spare them a glance as they traverse the heavens, carrying signals that stitch the modern world together. Yet now, unbeknownst to most of us, these satellites have become the front lines in a hidden war, one which threatens to tear their fragile web apart. The first shots of this conflict have already erupted in the vacuum of space, but the ripples may soon plunge global order into chaos. As you go about your daily life, relying on GPS, internet, and other satellite services, the space assets enabling modern life are sustaining relentless attack. An invisible space war being waged above our atmosphere now holds the entire planet in its orbit. In this video, we peel back the secrecy to reveal the battle unfolding 440 miles overhead, a fight for dominance in Earth's orbital planes with stakes no less than the interdependent global system itself. We expose what nations stand to gain in exploiting space infrastructure's fragility, and we uncover the extraordinary weapons designed to shatter this precarious balance from above. Weapons which have already unleashed bands of debris orbiting at 10 times the speed of a bullet. Imagine the night sky, calm and full of stars. Now think about a different story playing out up there. Our Earth's sky isn't just a pretty view. It's where a battle is happening for control of satellites. It's like a game, but the pieces are high-tech satellites that run our world. Countries are rolling the dice, trying to be in charge. Join us as we uncover this hidden war in space, where satellites are the players and the future of our technology is at stake. Will we make it through, or will the lights go out in orbit? Let's find out together. But before we continue, we would like you guys to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell icon so you do not miss out on any amazing and entertaining content. The sights of flickering stars and endless galaxies once inspired dreams of unity and exploration. But tensions on Earth have turned space into another battleground, straining international cooperation in the cosmos. The reverberations of war reach even the International Space Station, once a symbol of what nations can achieve together beyond borders. Yet now Russia contemplates abandoning this orbital outpost, retreating into isolationism amidst its invasion of Ukraine. This shift reflects a new space race, one focused not on achievement but dominance, with growing threats between superpowers. As far back as 2019, the U.S. Space Command chief warned that satellites themselves may become targets vulnerable to blinding or disruption. By that year, NATO recognized space as a potential domain for warfare, on par with land, air, sea, and cyber. Where national interests are at stake, conflict often follows. China, Russia, and the U.S. now joust to leverage their space assets against one another. Testing anti-satellite weapons from jamming devices to kinetic kill vehicles, they target vulnerabilities in reconnaissance, communication, and navigation satellites. Destabilizing any one element of this intricate web in space can provide advantage on the ground. And one American startup seeks to accelerate this arms race. True Anomaly, led by defense contractor alumni, is now constructing attack satellites set to launch aboard SpaceX rockets within 2 years. Though currently unarmed, these prototypes, dubbed Jackals, are designed to wield future weapons per military requirements. The message is clear. Space is no longer a sanctuary from terrestrial turmoil. What was once untouched now lies firmly in the crosshairs. The heavens churn with the echoes of each nation's interests, as the promise of unity spirals further beyond reach. With dominance the new goal in the stars themselves, the scales of power stand poised to shift in drastic ways. More now hangs in the balance beyond our fragile atmosphere. The question remains whether cooler heads will prevail in the vacuum. The infinite vacuum of space may seem an unlikely battleground, but with no drag or distortion, energy beams and hypervelocity slugs can strike targets at a blistering pace. A laser's coherent light, focused across thousands of miles, delivers disruptive intensity to fragile satellite optics and electronics. Yet diffraction still subtly weakens a laser's power at extreme ranges, demanding ever more brute force amplification. Railguns sidestep this limitation entirely by imparting immense kinetic energy to solid metal projectiles, rifling them to speeds exceeding Mach 10. Unhindered in the void, these ferocious slugs retain immense impact force even over vast distances. So as American startups blueprint orbital weapons, China may have stolen a march with deployed laser systems. A 2022 Pentagon report revealed multiple Chinese bases hiding anti-satellite beam directors. Some can apparently strike low-orbit targets 60 to 100 miles up, enough to menace the bulk of space assets. The proof? American satellites spotted unusual activity when passing over two Chinese laser stations, suggesting possible targeting and testing. The beams illuminated an array of spacecraft, from private internet constellations like Starlink to top-secret U.S. military birds. By dispatching these lasers against foreign satellites, China is likely refining tactics to disable or debris entire orbital networks. Even more alarming are hints of an orbital Chinese laser dubbed the relativistic klystron amplifier. According to Chinese researchers, this beast packs a 5-megawatt microwave pulse, enough to fry most satellite electronics. To operate on orbit, the weapon would need incredible size and power density, with advanced adaptive optics and tracking to pinpoint fast-moving targets. While China denies the weaponization angle, the specifications align with a blindness beam system. The Pentagon report confirms China is determined to hold U.S. space assets at risk. As satellites become vulnerable overhead, the race quickens to weaponize the ultimate high ground. Both nations scale up beam weapons and hypervelocity railguns, aiming to challenge the ultimate high ground. The silent vacuum waits at the center, a strings-cut arena where the smallest advantage will be ruthlessly exploited. And in the infinite void, what goes up may not come down again. Both sides must grapple with debris and escalation risks to avoid an orbit clogged by their own weapons. But if cooling heads do not prevail in the vacuum, the heavens could become a flashpoint from which neither can retreat. Faced with China's rapid space weaponization, the United States is marshaling every asset to defend its orbital supremacy. From laser communications to kinetic kill vehicles, the Pentagon has dozens of programs to sustain space dominance, deter aggression, and prepare attack options if deterrence fails. Industry giants like General Atomics are pioneering laser data links with the Space Development Agency, fleets of satellites that share information at light speed with no weather interference. Space's vacuum makes it ideal for lasers, enabling massive bandwidth and microsecond latency. These connections can transmit hundreds of gigabytes instantly, linking sensors and weapons into a real-time kill web. Kinetic weapons likewise thrive without atmospheric drag. The concept involves orbiting satellites releasing tungsten rods or missile-like projectiles on demand. The sheer speed and precision can slam into targets with devastating effect. No traditional explosives needed. Some concepts feature hunter-killer satellites with storage bays to release multiple vehicles, while other designs integrate modules directly into surveillance platforms. In fact, kinetic vehicles were part of former President Bush's Near-Field Infrared Experiment, NFIRE program in 2007. Though canceled, confidential sources suggest derivatives continued in classified settings, and with reusable space launch now routine, the cost to deploy a dispersed network in orbit looks increasingly feasible. But the U.S. prefers to deter aggression without fueling instability from overtly offensive space forces. Much effort focuses on passive protection like sensor redundancy and hardening, comprehensive surveillance to pinpoint terrestrial threats, and reusable rapid response vehicles to quickly replace disabled satellites. Directed energy weapons like Helios offer dual-use options to damage enemy spacecraft if required while promoting defensive missions. Yet plans likely exist to take the fight directly to hostile satellites if U.S. space assets face imminent coordinated attack. In that contingency, preemptive strikes combining kinetic vehicles, cyber weapons, directed energy, and anti-satellite missiles will likely target adversarial C2, early warning and communication birds. With orbital regimes and norms under threat, the norms restricting space warfare may need re-evaluation. For now, the Pentagon hopes non-escalatory capabilities will contain China's ambitions without triggering open conflict in the stars themselves. But with both superpowers able to threaten orbits in minutes, crisis instability looms as a constant risk. Cool heads are vital to address dual-use threats while avoiding the immense costs of kinetic battles in orbit. With norms and restraint fast eroding, the heavens teeter as the next flashpoint in risk of ignition. Alongside kinetic weapons and laser systems, the Pentagon has quietly tested advanced jamming satellites to disrupt hostile forces targeting U.S. space assets. Small, agile spacecraft carrying radio frequency munitions could provide escort duties for vulnerable high-value satellites. By blanketing enemy targeting radars in noise, such jammers may buy precious time and force aggressors to recalculate odds of success. In fact, maneuverable small satellites with potential offensive uses have been in development for decades. As early as 2003, the Air Force Research Lab conducted trailblazer missions with the experimental XSS-10. It demonstrated rendezvous abilities and close proximity flight that could enable future weapons roles. And in 2014, the Air Force Orbital Experiment Test Satellite pursued similar goals. Today, the fruits of that research exist as the Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, a classified constellation of satellites in valuable geosynchronous orbit. The high positioning allows constant hemispheric oversight to track threats across strategic regions. Publicly, this architecture delivers data to protect U.S. space assets by monitoring behavior and revealing hostile intent. But while officially billed as merely situational awareness birds, the nimble satellites have reportedly conducted countless maneuvers over their multi-year deployment. Maneuverability and proximity allow possibilities beyond passive monitoring. Opinions differ on whether they serve an unacknowledged protective purpose. The spacecraft contain remote modules speculated to house signals intelligence and defensive packages like antenna jammers. Activated in crisis, such agile guardians could flank U.S. assets to deafen incoming weapons, scramble firing solutions, and instill doubts of mission success. Adversaries may recalculate odds when expensive missiles must home through sophisticated jamming bubbles. Similar escort roles help defend naval ships and aircraft formations today in terrestrial domains. While currently intended to monitor rather than engage amid rapidly evolving threats, even defensive satellites constitute another step in blurring norms against space weaponization. Much still depends on developing norms and averting spirals of hostility that could spark open warfare above the atmosphere. But with the ultimate strategic height at stake, all major players now postulate escort roles could one day expand. At stake is whether the stars themselves will tremble under our conflicts exported into the void, or whether wisdom previses to keep Earth's wars from infecting the endless beyond. The weaponization of space represents a watershed moment that could fundamentally reshape the nature of warfare and geopolitics in the coming decades. As lasers, jammers, and kinetic weapons proliferate in Earth orbit, they threaten to undermine norms of free access and shared infrastructure that have governed the space domain for generations. The consequences of open conflict in space could be devastating in ways we are only beginning to grasp. Any major war risks, making entire orbital regimes unusable for decades due to vast debris fields from destroyed satellites. But with so many essential systems, from navigation to banking to weather data dependent on space services, all nations have critical assets vulnerable to attack. Blinding or disabling satellites could cripple financial systems, military coordination, supply chains, and everyday life below. At the same time, the militarization of orbit creates instability that could easily spiral out of control. Attacks on space assets, whether kinetic, cyber, or energy-based, allow little time for considered responses before impacted capabilities start winking out. Rapid retaliation risks miscalculation and uncontrolled escalation with incalculable costs. Yet the physics of orbital motion dictates narrow launch windows for missile defense, permitting no delay. Deterrence also suffers when dual-use systems like small inspection satellites can quickly become weaponized. Intentions are difficult to signal clearly, raising hair-trigger risks akin to nuclear systems. Trust between great powers is now precarious even in friendly orbits, with shadow wars threatening to ignite into open conflagration. Perhaps most sobering are the opportunity costs of this new arms race, which diverts scarce resources and scientific talent into ever more destructive applications. As nations vie to extend terrestrial geopolitics into the cosmos, they sacrifice the uplifting vision that space exploration has represented for generations. What new understandings of our universe could emerge absent this martial focus? How might global priorities shift if inspired by our atmosphere's fragility as seen from orbit, instead of dividing to claim the endless vacuum beyond it? Now, at a fragile tipping point of weaponization, conflict in space could irrevocably alter how nations collaborate and compete for generations. Our species faces a stark choice about what example we wish to imprint on the stars: one of conflict exported upwards from this world, or a hopeful symbol that even such endless possibility cannot tempt us from the bounds of peace. As we unravel the mystery of satellites at war, remember, this is more than just a story, it's the unseen battlefield shaping our digital world. What are your thoughts on this cosmic clash? Drop your comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more mind-bending content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your comments coming. The universe is vast, and so are the discussions waiting to unfold.